meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. A weather front coming in with cloud showers and thunderstorms today and tonight. Lots of clouds expected, mid to upper 70s during the day, and cooler tonight, 45 to 52, rather breezy tonight. It'll be breezy to windy Wednesday, partly to mostly sunny in the low 60s, northwest wind 10 to 20 with a few higher gusts. Thursday, mostly sunny, less wind in the mid 60s. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. Mozambique is voting in a general election that some fear could test the country's fragile peace. The Trump administration is calling on Turkey to halt its invasion of northern Syria and has imposed sanctions on the country. Climate group Extinction Rebellion have been banned from protesting in London 4 days earlier than their demonstration was due to end, and EU chief negotiator Michel Barnier says if a Brexit deal is to be reached this week, the details need to be agreed by the end of Tuesday.
It's 9:01.
Community Conversations is brought to you by Arkansas Early Learning, offering no-cost childcare in Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas. Applications at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday to you. I'm pushing the week along. Hope everyone is having a great start to their day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Quabila Jones, and my special guest today is Captain Kevin Kaczmarek.
Yes.
All right, got it right. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Captain Kaczmarek is here from Arkansas State University Military Sciences. So we're going to, I know we had someone yesterday from the Army recruitment, but we're going to get into the Army and the military science in reference to Arkansas State University. And so what students encounter on a daily basis in the classes they take and everything else, anything else we can fit into the conversation on today. So I want to say thank you for joining us. And since this is your first time, can you please give us an introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name's Captain Kevin Kaczmarek. I was born and raised in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and I have been all around this great country and world. And now I live here in Jonesboro, Arkansas, as the Assistant Professor of Military Science at Arkansas State University.
That's awesome. And so I'm sure you have encountered students from all walks of life and have imparted your wisdom and knowledge onto them.
I try.
All right. So how long have you been a member of the United States Army?
So I will hit 10 years active duty service this May.
Okay.
It has been a wonderful journey.
All right, so let's get into, before we get into the student aspect, let's get into your why and how has being a part of the Army helped to shape and mold who you are as a man?
So I joined ROTC as a freshman in Green Bay, Wisconsin in 2006.
Okay.
And I did it really out of my need to be on a team. I've always been on a team, whether it's sports or clubs. I love accomplishing things with groups of people. I played football at St. Norbert College, and one of the coaches was a assistant professor of military science, and he asked me to come on by and check out his program, and I immediately fell in love with it. Really for two reasons. One, I love physical and mental challenges, which that provided, and again, I love accomplishing things as a team. Not necessarily always leading, but also following, and kind of being able to diversify leadership qualities from people around me. And it stuck, and I've got to see the world and kind of impart knowledge that I've learned too, and it's been great.
So when you decided, okay, I want to join, and you went home and told your parents, what was their reaction like?
Shock a little bit, and I think fear too. I mean, in 2006, we've been in Iraq for 3 years. We've been in Afghanistan at that point for 5 years. So it was the knowledge of knowing that I was probably going to deploy right after college was scary. And then they realized that they were going to pick up the bill for a private college. So it kind of went from being, there's you take the good, you take the bad.
Okay.
I think my dad was extremely proud. I think my mom was probably a little scared.
Okay. I'm a mom, so yes, anything dealing with our children, we're like, Yeah, we get a little scared. And so, were you ever deployed overseas?
I was. I went and fought in southern Afghanistan in 2011 and 2012. I was there for about 15 months.
Were you on the front lines?
Well, so it's asymmetrical, so everything's a front line there.
Okay.
So, yeah, for the most part.
And we'll get into the students. I'm sorry, just because I want people to get to know who you are, and why you do what you do, and how you give back and pour into the students. What you experienced there, were you able to bring it back and say, okay, this is what it's really going to be like, and you let the students know what you're not just signing up, put on a uniform. You know, it's not for show. This is for real.
So I think anytime you deploy to a combat zone, it really hits home the privilege you have to be an officer. It's a privilege. It's not a right. You make mistakes as a human being, but if you make mistakes in combat, there's obviously dire consequences to that. So it's just kind of you have to teach people that you have to slow down and understand the consequences of your decision, and that your job as an Army leader, whether an NCO or an officer, is a privilege. It can be taken away. You can be fired. You can be relieved for making that mistake. Even if it wasn't your fault necessarily, you need to always be conscious of the decisions you make and the consequences of those. And I bring that back to everyday life, too. Always understanding second and third order consequences of your decisions.
So does that make you, or kind of help you to take a step back before making a decision, kind of looking at all the consequences?
Right, yeah. It's kind of that, hey, if I do this, is that it may be good right now in the moment, but what's it going to be like in the future? How's it going to affect the personnel? And also the team mentality. Because if you make a bad decision as a leader, that team's not going to follow you. You see that with sports all the time. Quarterbacks of football teams.
Did we just see video? Did you see the video clip from when the Cowboys played over the weekend? They did not shake their coaches. Wherever the coach was right there, they just walked by and shake his hand. I don't know what happened in that moment, but
right. Well, you think about sportsmanship in general, and some people get offended when you refer to war as a game, or they don't understand that. But sportsmanship is a huge part of it. What do you do? If you have an enemy combatant, they're a prisoner of war now. How do you treat them? Well, it's written out already. You treat them like a human being, because that's what they are. And it's hard for people to kind of conceptualize that. And those are the things that kind of I bring back from a deployment. You're going to have anger, you're going to have frustration, but at the end of the day, if you wear the American flag and your chest says U.S. Army, you represent everyone in America, and you have to understand that.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that. I want to say good morning to Miss Amanda Donovan, who says good morning, and thank you for your service. Thank you, Amanda, for checking in. Thank you to everyone else out there that's listening and checking in. Can you please share this video? And if there's a student out there that you know may be interested in the ROTC, send them to Captain Kevin's way, and he'll be happy to have a conversation with them, as well as the other personnel in the military science department. All right, so let's get into, how did you transition from being in active duty? Well, you're still in active duty, and definitely want you to explain that a little bit more, but how did you transition from where you were, I guess, to being a professor?
So it's referred to as a broadening assignment.
Okay.
The Army sees it as a way for officers to go out in different areas of society and kind of give back or bring something back to the Army. So there's several different broadening opportunities I could have done. I could have done a training with industry and worked maybe with a Fortune 500 company and brought that back. What I really wanted to do was teach. I really wanted to kind of help mold the Army's future by seeing if I could recruit officers that think and act the way I want them to act.
Okay.
And the way that the Army says they should act, with what I like to call a little sprinkle of Captain K. Giving my own brand. It's a great way that I could give back, and it's also a great way that I could build the Army in the vision that it wants to be.
Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and break down those different classifications: active, reserve, and then National Guard and ROTC. Because some people, do they correlate? Do they interchange? Are they interchangeable? Like, help those like me to understand the breakdown of those different classifications.
Sure. So we'll start with the National Guard. National Guard is state-based.
Okay.
It is part-time. As the commercial says, it's 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. Basically, you join that and you're a part-time soldier. You have an everyday job as well.
Okay.
It gives you supplemental income, and it gives you training that you won't receive usually in the regular workforce.
Okay.
For ROTC, if you go through Reserve Officer Training Corps, which is what ROTC stands for, you have the chance to do the guard option. Usually the obligation of service is longer, but that's because you're doing it part-time, if that makes sense. Reserve is the same thing. It is part-time, exact same training, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. The Reserve is actually the Army itself, though, so it's not just a state.
Okay.
National Guard is state-based. Army Reserve is the Army part-time.
Over.
Yeah.
You can be sent anywhere, anytime.
Well, yes, but you're going to have a unit. It's just not tied to the
Okay.
state for budgeting purposes or
Okay.
deploying purposes. And then there's me, active.
Okay.
So I do this job every day. It is the equivalent of my 9 to 5.
Okay.
I do permanent change of stations, which means I move about every 3 years. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in the United States. I've been stationed in Korea. You can be stationed in Europe. You do it all the time. There's benefits to being active. It's a job, obviously. I always have a steady paycheck. But I do move a lot. So I always tell cadets that they're wondering what to do. It's what your life plan is. Don't become me. Don't think that you have to go active because I'm active. Don't go guard because your mom told you to go guard. It's what you want to do. Do you want to have an everyday job? Do you want to go and maybe get your master's degree right away and run your own clinic, what have you? Do what you want to do. Then the guard or the reserve is probably what you want. If you're like me and you just didn't really have a plan and wanted to see the world, active is probably your choice.
Okay.
But it's just really important that everyone know that choice is on the individual.
Okay.
What do they want to do? What's their plan? And we're going to do our best to facilitate that.
And so when you encounter students before they sign up for anything, do you give them a rundown of all of this and have a conversation with them or conduct an assessment to see, okay, what they think they want versus what would be the best fit?
Right, right. So that's obviously very important. What we do is, as professors, we do an initial counseling.
Okay.
Where we talk about who they are, what they want, what their goals and their motivations are, and then we brief basically what I just told you there, how we break it down. What you'll find is, obviously, when you're in college, you're getting a lot of things thrown at you. You're seeing life from a lot of different angles.
Okay.
And maybe what you want the first day you join isn't what you want towards the end. But when you sign a contract that it's obligatory for either reserve, guard, or active, you have to make that decision consciously. And
Okay.
I will guarantee you, none of us in the program will let them make that decision until we talk to them and we know they fully understand what
then
those are.
You talk to the parents as well, or whoever their caregivers are.
I will talk to the parents. It gets difficult. Obviously, if they want to, I will. But it's funny because you're trying to make sure that these young men and women know that they're adults and the decision is theirs.
Okay.
But obviously, I'm going to talk to a parent if they want to. But I prefer is if they bring their parent together so that we can have kind of that three-way conversation. So I'm getting mom and dad's perspective or the guardian's perspective. You have a lot of young men and women too that have older brothers or sisters that come and kind of represent them too and are worried about them. And
Okay.
I'm never gonna. We never want to have happen is that it seems like we're getting them, we're signing them up and they're going. I know that horrible stereotype of the Army recruiting model. We want people to join that are volunteering, and we want them to know exactly what they're volunteering for.
Okay. Because it's a lifelong decision, and from what I understand, you're kind of under a contract for X number of years per however long. Like, okay, help me understand this before I overspeak myself. When someone signs up, whether it's ROTC, National Guard, Active Reserve, are they presented with, here are your yearly, like 3 years, 5 years, 10, like, are they presented with an option, or is just that's? Please explain.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that you can, what we call contract, which is when you sign on that dotted line to serve after college as an officer.
Okay.
If you're a scholarship student and you go active, you're looking at on average about 5 years.
Okay.
It depends on your scholarship itself too. If you do what's called a Minuteman scholarship, that designates you to National Guard.
Okay.
You will serve usually between 6 and 8 years. So the obligation for National Guard and Reserves is usually longer because you're doing it part-time.
Okay.
So that also factors in. If somebody's not sure if this is for them, they're going to get the deer in headlights look after they graduate. You also have to look at how long that obligation is of service. One thing that we don't talk a lot about too, though, is if you go active and you find out that doing this job every day is not for you, you can also come back to reserve once you're or guard once your initial obligation is done.
Okay. And have you ever had someone that you encountered? They are gung-ho, they're ready to go, and then about a semester or two in, they're kind of like, no, I don't think so.
Yes, I mean, and there's different stressors that we have to have in the program to kind of not weed them out, but make them understand what it can be like.
Okay.
And obviously, there's people that are like, well, this isn't what I thought it was. And that's perfectly fine. That's another conversation we're going to have with you. If we're doubting that you're going to be able to make it successfully, I'm not going to ask you to contract. And that's not because you're a bad person, and that's not because I don't like you. That's because in our assessment as professors, we just don't think it might be for you, and that's perfectly fine. Your freshman and sophomore year, this is just a class. At the end of the day, you don't have to sign a contract until you're a junior. So you can come and just feel it out. We have people actually come, not even signed up for the class, that want to see what it's like, and they kind of shadow a cadet. That's perfectly fine. The more understanding we create, the better for our program.
Okay. Off air, we talked a little bit about behavioral issues, and I've heard some people, men in particular, say, if it wasn't for the military, I would be in a grave or in a cell. So have you encountered those that have been open and honest with you about their why of wanting to join? Like, just they know they need a change in their life, and they don't personally have the discipline to do it themselves.
So it's funny, yes, we have, but it's I always say that people that do that actually have the discipline, because leaders self-select. They try to create structure around themselves. And if you know your weakness, if you know maybe you're prone to bad decisions, but you join an organization that's going to insulate you from those decisions and show you how to make the right ones, then you are a leader. You've kind of changed your own path. Because again, it's volunteer.
So they almost made they made the decision for themselves. They just needed the right avenue, the right path.
Right.
So you were there to kind of help, kind of bring them in and say, okay, you really made the decision for yourself.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Now, I guess on the same plane, have you encountered those that said or thought they wanted to do that, and then once they got in, either they couldn't self-discipline enough, they couldn't fall in line?
I mean, it is hard. It's difficult, but yet you're going to have the onesies and twosies, and it is very minor usually. It's usually one or two that for whatever reason they just not necessarily lack the motivation, but they fall behind. And the program and becoming an officer is a privilege.
Okay.
We're most likely somehow we're going to pay for your school. We're going to try to find a way to get you a scholarship if we can. And that scholarship and the contract tells you, you have to have a certain GPA. You have to be this physically fit.
Okay.
And if you can't meet those minimums, unfortunately, you're not going to be in the program. We're going to try our hardest to counsel you and give you the tools to be successful. But at the end of the day, the old saying is, I can make a horse to water, I can't make him drink.
Okay, so hopefully, someone out there listening, they know a student that is interested, and this will help them make a decision one way or another. And again, you can always go out to Arkansas State University and go talk to Captain Kevin or any of the other personnel that's on staff there. And then also you have other locations that you partner with.
We are. So we're part of what's called the Red Wolf Battalion.
Okay.
So we have partner schools that the professor of military science, Major Joseph Lohr, is also in charge of. So we have Lyon College in Batesville. We have Harding University in Searcy, and then ASU BB. All of those have ROTC programs now. So you basically do the same thing we do at Arkansas State, and you are commissioned through Arkansas State ROTC, but at your own university.
That's really awesome. And do you feel that having these partnerships has strengthened the program because it allows students and the professors to engage with others?
Absolutely. So anytime you can kind of diversify where you're pulling from different student bodies and different locations, it's going to make your program stronger, and it's going to make the Army stronger.
Okay.
People from Harding University might not necessarily think or act like somebody from Arkansas State. They might come from a different background. They may have a different major. The more diverse we can make our officer corps, thinking, acting, and where they're from, the better off we're going to be successful at motivating America's sons and daughters.
All right. Awesome. All right, so we're going to get ready for a break, about 2 minutes. I don't want to get too deep into some other questions. So can you share some stories, good, bad, of course without giving away identity, just some stories of students and, maybe something funny they did in class or something?
Sure. So I teach sophomores, and it's funny because the longer I'm in the program, the more I realize every class itself has its kind of own heartbeat, its own motivation.
Okay.
And they come together usually as a class too and figure out what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. And I have a young man, I won't mention names, that is the fastest human being I think I've ever seen in the Army at that age.
Wow.
And it is so funny to see everyone try to catch him when we go on runs.
Really?
Yeah, and then everyone else, by that, just not saying a word, just by how he leads from the front, everyone else tries to follow him. And, inadvertently, and they're going to know it now if they're listening, he's improving the whole program by doing that. Because they're all just trying to catch him, playing rabbit. And when you have someone like that in your program, and then you have the people that are behind him trying to catch him, you see what we call the glide path to excellence for physical fitness. And it's really awesome to watch. And it has, honestly, very little to do with me. I get to sit back and watch these kids push each other, and it's a great privilege.
That is awesome. That reminded me of a story. I watched a video clip of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, and they were talking about when they were younger in their career, early in their careers, they would have this silent competition with each other because one movie would do better than the other sometimes, and so they used each other to motivate each other. They were kind of enemies, but friendly enemies. At one point, and they would, publicly joke at award shows and this and that, but they used that to help build each other up. And then they got older and realized we were our own worst enemy, But anyway, they appreciated what each other brought to the table, and now they're the best friends. So shout out to that young man and the rest of the team for doing well. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue talking more. We'll get deeper into the military science program. But I wanted people to get a feel of, some of the background first. And now we're going to get dive into the business matter. So
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Do you struggle with disciplining your children? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. It's important for every parent to know the fundamentals of discipline. Here are the 7 fundamental principles for tried and true discipline. First, unified discipline. You need to agree on how you will discipline your children ahead of time. If a new situation arises, talk privately first and come to agreement with your spouse before you approach your children. Show your kids you're unified. It's easier for you and much better for them. If you have more than one child, be sure to apply these principles of discipline across the board. Don't show favoritism. Remember, your family first.
Submit your dad for the Omaha Steaks All-Pro Dad of the Year at omahasteaks.com/Dad of the Year.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
Family Minute is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a non-profit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
Starks Auto Plaza at 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard is a proud KLEK supporter, offering luxury pre-owned vehicles sold wholesale to the public. At Starks, we never say no. 870-203-9980. Details at starksautoplaza.com.
Anointed Pro Lube, 1216 East Johnson Avenue, serves the Jonesboro community inspired by Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. They offer brake service, oil changes, tire plugs, basic tune-ups, wiper blade changes, bulb changes, and coolant system flushes. Open Monday, Thursday, and Friday 8 to 5, Tuesday and Wednesday 8 to 4, and Saturday 8 to 2. For more information, 870-520-5039.
The McDaniel Law Firm, 400 South Main Street in Jonesboro, is a firm believer in justice and equality for the minority community. The McDaniel Law Firm has fought for our rights for over 44 years. The McDaniel Law Firm offers legal help for wrongful death as well as trucking and automobile accidents. Bobby and Brett McDaniel are available for a free consultation at 870-336-4747 or at www.mcdaniellawyers.com. Check out Melvin Williams of the Williams Brothers every Sunday morning from 5 to 7 a.m. here on KLEK for the Melvin Williams Down Home Gospel Radio Show, playing the very best in quartet and inspirational gospel music that you'll love, as well as feature interviews with all of your favorite gospel artists. It's Melvin Williams Down Home Gospel Radio Show, Sundays from 5 to 7 a.m. on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Do you like the music you hear on KLEK 102.5 FM? Do you like the educational programming that we provide? Do you like the service we provide to the community? Do you like having a station to finally call your own that represents you? If so, please stop by or call any of our underwriters or sponsors that you hear on KLEK and tell them thank you for their support. The support of our underwriters and sponsors is vital for us to stay on the air. So be sure to let them know that you thank them for their support.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with my special guest, Captain Kevin Kaczmarek. All right, I'm always getting tongue-tied on that. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope people have been enjoying the first part of our conversation. So now we're going to dive deeper into, what Arkansas State University has to offer in terms of military science, the military science program. And so you can go to astate.edu, and in the search box, just type military science, and it will take you to the home page. And from there, you can see quite a bit of information. And if you scroll down to the bottom, it'll tell you more about military science, prospective students, classes, and some other information. So when I click on classes, it kind of gives you a breakdown: freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior level. And there's these two classifications, class and rank. So can you go through those? And it says military science and leadership, and then it says freshman and sophomore. So can you run us through that,
Sure.
please?
So the classes are based on the instructional classes themselves. So, your freshman year, you're going to have a class. Your sophomore year, you're going to have a class, and so on all the way through. The classes are broken down to kind of do what we call the crawl, walk, run phase. So as a freshman or a sophomore, you're learning very Army basic things, how to act, how to talk, what ranks look like, how organizations within the military are structured. When you become a junior, you are the leadership. We are a cadet-run organization. What that means is at the end of the day, I'm here to make sure everyone's safe and that we are getting the right people in the door. The cadets themselves, the students, actually run the organization, and the juniors run the day-to-day operations of ROTC. The seniors are the brain trust, if you will. They plan everything the organization does weeks out for those juniors to execute. And then the ones and the twos, as we MS1, MS2, your freshman and sophomore, they're the training audience. So it's one of those unique organizations where the professors teach the classes, but physical fitness in the mornings and the lab where they're actually learning the tactics are run almost exclusively by the students.
That's awesome. And so let's talk about the ranks. Sometimes probably there are egos involved, and people feel like even though I'm at this classification, I deserve a little more respect than when I'm old and everything in between. So can you give us a rundown of how you handle when students in essence get out of their place, out of their rank? They try to operate outside of their rank.
So it's an art because at the end of the day, the military is very competitive. Now, in the cadet structure itself, there's cadet ranks. So we have a cadet battalion commander that's a senior, that's overall in charge of all the schools I listed previously, and the planning for those schools. It's a very big privilege to get that position. And we switch it out every semester right now.
Okay.
So what you're doing is you're creating empathy, because everything that young man this time does or fails to do can come back around if he doesn't have the position next semester. So what you do is you create somebody that's accountable, because that privilege of that position isn't permanent in cadets. It constantly rotates, and it's the same way with the juniors, seniors, or the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. You may have a sophomore that right now is in charge of juniors. Well, that's kind of difficult for some juniors because they're like, well, I've been in longer, I know more. But that opportunity may be given to them because of something they did, because of the effort they're putting in, and what have you. For the most part, it smooths itself over, because it's going to drive the individuals that feel like they weren't selected to be better, and it's going to make sure that that person that was selected does the best he or she can for the program.
Okay. Now, through the student, I'm looking at the website, and it says this year will give them the knowledge of tactical basic camp at Fort Knox, Kentucky, before the junior level course. So do the students, no matter what their level, get to go off campus, off site?
So everyone is required through ROTC after their junior year to attend what's called cadet summer training.
Okay.
That is where they will be tested on all the leadership attributes, whether it's tactics, physical fitness, and everything that they've learned basically for the first 3 years. And they go with cadets from every single ROTC commissioning school. They train for, I believe this summer is going to be 38 days at Fort Knox. And that is put in basically to their assessment at where the Army ranks them as cadets against their peers.
And so do they get to encounter other officers, personnel within the Army that they, of course, don't know? Do they get to have one-on-one sessions, and what are some of the activities that they engage in at Fort Knox?
So they'll do a physical fitness assessment. They're going to do a test to see where they're at physically, and then they're going to do actual tactical lanes where they patrol in a platoon or a squad setting.
Okay.
So with anywhere between 12 people to probably about 30 people, and they're going to rotate and be in charge of that. And it's really cool to see because they're going to be in charge of 30 people that they had never met before 2 weeks prior. So it's an awesome test of their leadership and how they've developed, how they communicate, because you're getting people from all around the country and getting them together to accomplish a mission, being led by somebody, again, that they've only known for maybe a week or two.
And maybe, and I say just for fun, but I don't know if they would consider it fun, but just for fun, do they get to interact with the adults? Let's say that, first let me ask this question. Is Fort Knox a teaching only, or is it an actual base?
So it's a TRADOC base. It's a training doctrine base right now.
Okay.
But the people that run that training are us. So we, as cadre, as professors and assistant professors of military science, we are all sent to Fort Knox in the summer to train and evaluate these cadets. So I'll get an awesome opportunity to see a platoon of cadets that I have never met before.
Okay.
They'll get an opportunity to kind of hear how I teach, how I run things. So you're going to get, it's one of those things where the more the better. You're going to get a diversity of leadership through ROTC, because obviously you're going to have your home station, your school, but then you're going to go and do these training opportunities in Fort Knox, and you're going to have instructors that aren't me.
Okay.
And you're going to see what I've taught you that's standard across the Army, and you're going to see what I have taught you that's necessarily kind of my own brand, if you will, because every leader is different.
And so will you all have moments where you get to just sit down and, I don't know if you rest and relax, but just kind of a chill moment, and you get to talk and share insight with other cadets?
Sure. We refer to it as shade tree counseling.
Okay.
Right? So you take your hat off under the tree, and take a breather, and kind of talk through things. And it's one of my favorite things about being an Army officer, quite frankly. It's just the opportunity to talk to individuals who are so different than myself, and see kind of what they're thinking, where they're coming from, where I can help, and where they can help me. I learn a lot from all of my subordinates across 10 years in the Army. I've learned tactics from young men and women that have been in the Army for 9 months that I never thought of.
And do you ever get to, and not to be funny, let your hair down, like have a little fun?
I have no hair. That's why I have a face for radio.
So during those summertime, or during that time, is there like I don't want to say party, but a social?
So there is. Social settings in the Army are very different because we're always aware of what's called fraternization, where that is, as a leader, though I love my subordinates, I I can't party with them. I can't be their friend. I'm their mentor, I'm their guide, I'm their coach, but never their friend. And it's structured that way because I have to make life-changing decisions on and with and for them. Yes, we do have socials, but they're very structured, just so that we don't mix up that relationship between mentor and mentee, so that they don't think it's a friendship.
Okay. And I know this is probably off topic, but we see this. I see this. Students go to college. They make choices, or I don't want to call them mistakes. They make choices that lead to consequences, and sometimes students become parents before they're ready. So if someone has decided to join ROTC, National Guard, Army Active Reserve, do you also have conversations with them about making wise choices or being responsible for their actions? Just to, in essence, help them set their life up in a way they really want to go and not add any unnecessary hurdles.
Sure. So, obviously everyone's different, and everyone's story is different. Choices have consequences, but that doesn't necessarily make you a bad person or less marketable as an Army leader.
Okay.
So if you are a single mom, a single dad, if you're married, if you have multiple kids, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person, you've made bad choices. It means you're unique in the way that I'm going to structure your self-development. Obviously, I can't make a single mother, maybe come to physical fitness training. There's different things that we have to diversify to take care of that individual. And the plans for these are on an individual basis.
Okay.
So obviously, there's room for structure. A mistake or a bad choice doesn't necessarily make you obviously a bad person or negate you from being in a program like ours. It's just we got to structure your plan a little differently.
Okay. Awesome. And I'm sorry, I'm asking a lot of different questions, but I want people to have as much information as possible going into this. I don't want anyone to feel, well, I'm not eligible, I can't do this, or I'm not I'm just not a good fit for this. I want people to feel they may be a good fit. They just need to come and talk to you.
Right. And that's the thing is we just have to have the conversation. There's a saying that we say in the Army, it's everything's waiverable, which means we may have a structure. We may say, hey, you need this, you need that. But it may just be a conversation. It may be us talking to our higher headquarters and saying, hey, I have this unique situation. I have someone with, I think, unlimited potential, but they don't meet this gate or this gate. What can we do? Okay. And I'm not going to make promises on a radio show because I don't know what every situation is.
I understand.
But let's have the conversation at least and we'll see where you're at.
Okay. Alrighty. Now, I know this may be a touchy subject because it seems like there's a lot of tension across the world, not just the U.S., the world, when it comes to race and gender relations. And so because we seem to be hyper aware of a lot of things happening right now, how does the Army try to help I don't know, I'm lost for words right now, but how do you deal with tensions that rise, and how do you try to help reassure the individuals, we're going to protect you, we're going to look out for you, we're going to dismantle things that rise up? And that's not exactly the word, but
Sure. So the first thing we do is equal opportunity training, right?
Okay.
And that is basically a time that we set aside to talk about the differences, to talk about, the Army is the ultimate melting pot. Every race, creed, sex, religion is present there.
Okay.
So how do you deal with it? And a lot of it is you'll find that those values, those lenses that we judge things through are kind of where we came from. So equal opportunity training is actually mandatory in the Army, where they structure to show you different things that you'll see that may be taboo from where you're from,
Okay.
Or a different culture that you just haven't experienced before. And it's not necessarily all classroom. It kind of started out as that when I joined the Army. It was a classroom with, here is something you might see that's taboo when you go to this country and or this region even. Now it's kind of melted to we've taken our own control of it, where we just see opportunities to show soldiers, cadets, and leaders equal opportunity things. It may be going to a soul food dinner, which we've done when I lived in Georgia, which was great because I learned about culture and I got fed.
Okay.
We had a Pacific Islander Day in downtown Savannah where we just went and learned about a culture that I knew nothing about.
Wow.
You can't be a military leader without being open.
Okay.
It's not going to work. It doesn't matter where you go, you're going to have a platoon and or greater size element, 40 to 3,000 soldiers in a brigade, and they're going to come from all different walks of life. And you have to be conscious to what offends them, what motivates them, what they can see as mean, what they can see as, you being stereotyped.
Okay.
You have to be conscious of that. You also have to be a leader and say, hey, that offends me. Hey, I don't like that. Hey, where I'm from, this means this. And have that open conversation. And don't be afraid to stick your foot in your mouth. If somebody calls you out on something, say, I apologize. I didn't understand that, now I do. Empathetic leaders are the best leaders.
And is that the information training you also try to share and pass on to your cadets to let them know once you leave college, you're going to encounter different things in your life?
Absolutely. I kind of do a little bit of, I don't want to give it away for the cadets, structured in the classroom where I'll give them a scenario that either I have seen or I have heard happen in the military and how you deal with it. Because it's one thing to just say, well, I'm not this, I don't think like that. It's another thing when someone in your organization does it and offends somebody. How do you deal with it? What if that person's been in the military longer than you? What if that person's your boss? How do you do it? Because it happens every day. I think the problem becomes is when we get very aggravated with it or we shut down. We don't relax and just confront it for what it is, an issue, and kind of talk through that. And if you're going to be a leader in the Army, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to take, on average, a platoon, which is what lieutenants that are commissioned lead, 30 people, and motivate them all to do the same thing and repair broken relationships that may be in that organization. How do you do it? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's kind of how you're going to do it as a leader.
Now, going back to the leadership aspect, do you have conversations with them? I know in the classes they learn about leadership in reference to what the Army expects, but do you also talk about personal leadership? Again, when you're outside of this class, when you're outside, you're on your day off, out of uniform, like how do you still be a leader in your community, in your home, and just wherever you are?
So the saying is you never, even when you take the uniform off, you're still part of the military. So you have to conduct yourself in ways that show that you're a profession. It's kind of hard for young men and women to understand that you represent the entire country when you are in the military. Everything you do or don't do represents the military, especially if anybody knows you're in it. And even if they don't, they're, act like they're watching and be that leader. I think that the successful military leaders are leaders in general. So they don't really act any differently outside the uniform than they do with it on. I serve my country, but I also want to serve my community. I want to work soup kitchens. I want to give clothes to the needy, do soup kitchens like that, because that is part of service. Because maybe there's a young man or woman that needs that, and they see me giving it to them, and then 10 years down the road they join Arkansas State ROTC. That's like the perfect scenario.
Yes. We hope that they're watching and taking notes and, taking those mental notes and say, I want to be just like that when I get older. Now, even though you are where you are, do you reach out to, say, veterans and, rely on them as mentors so that you can also take that knowledge and wisdom and pass it on to your cadets?
Absolutely. I always try to find mentors in every corner of the world, at every level, military and non-military, veterans still serving, and those that are out, just kind of lessons learned. And it's so cool now with all the technology we have because nobody's ever unreachable. I can have a question and think, man, this is something a first sergeant I had 10 years ago would really help me with. And guess what? I can find him and I can ask him that question.
Wow.
Be like, hey, first sergeant, I know you've been out of the Army for 8 years. What would you do in this situation? And yeah, I think good leaders always find mentors, not necessarily on a straight path, not your bosses, but laterally, mentors even, that are junior soldiers that can help you with how they think. Because the older I get, the more I'm going to lose touch with that generation of young soldiers. Yes. I'm not going to think the same way they do. And it's important that I know that and I acknowledge it so that I don't lose it, basically.
And I always say, I'm over 40, and I say, I can always still learn something from the younger generation. Like, I have a few people that I talk to on a regular basis that they keep me motivated and inspired. So I'm like, okay, I'm not always mentoring them. They actually are pouring into me as well. Right. So shout out to all the young people. Don't be afraid to have a conversation with someone that's older than you or even from a different walk of life. And then please don't ever judge I know this is an old cliche. Don't judge a book by its cover. You see someone in a suit and tie, you don't know their story. Or you see someone in jeans and t-shirt, you don't know their story. So get to know somebody else. You never know what kind of relationship can build from that. So that's a sidebar. All right, so we're going to go into another break. So do you have any other stories, or tell us what's coming up for this semester? Not to give away what you have planned for the students, but maybe give us some insight to what they can look forward to.
So I think we're trending right now in the right direction with just letting the cadets run their own program, where I am just there to give advice and mentorship when they need it. But at the end of the day, it's their program. I'm going to leave eventually. The Army's going to move me along. That's just part of being active duty. But if I can leave one thing with them, it's just that this organization is theirs. They'll become alumni, and they can help with that. Make the brand what you want it to be, and continue to monitor it and push it towards excellence.
That's awesome. And I hope that they are listening. I really hope that they take everything serious. And I mean, I'm sure for the most part they do. And I hope that they feel that if life is coming at them in an unexpected direction, that they come to you and other professors and say, okay, here's what's happening, versus letting it snowball till it gets to a point where it affects their academics and their life, and they're just overwhelmed and frustrated. And that's the point you don't want them to get to.
That's my favorite Colin Powell quote is, when soldiers stop bringing you their problems, you are no longer leading them. So yeah, absolutely. Being a leader is a privilege, and the privilege is that you get to feel like you're there for them. And if they feel that, you're going to be successful no matter what you do.
That's awesome. Okay, well, we're going to take another quick break, but I'm going to read an announcement very quickly. KLEK is hosting a chili cook-off, which will be Friday, November 1st, 2019, at the Eben Watson Community Center. $10 to enter, $3 to taste. Competitors must be registered by October 29th. The different categories will be overall, beef, chicken, turkey, beer, and vegetable. So entry forms and full list of rules at www.klekfm.org. And we'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. You want to help that family member in need, but you don't exactly have money to just give away. Here are tips from Black Enterprise to help you decide whether to make that loan or hold on to your money. Don't be an enabler. If your relative is unwilling to talk about living beyond their means and does not seem genuinely interested in creating a spending plan, you are enabling them. You should also never tap into money earmarked for retirement and education savings. Who else would be affected by the loan? Make sure you discuss this decision with your family and other dependents before you make the loan so that you can make the choice together. What impacts you impacts them. Also, get real about the fact that if you give a relative or anyone else for that matter money, you are unlikely to get it back. Think of it as a gift and talk to your accountant about the IRS codes for gift giving. And if you can't afford the gift, you can't afford the loan. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Help keep KLEK on the air. Give now through our fall fund drive. We are seeking 100 donors to give at least $20 per month, but we are happy with any gift, large or small. Come by our studio at 1411 Franklin Street in Jonesboro. Call us at 870-277-1080 or visit our website, klekfm.org, or you can use Cash App, $KLEKFM, or text KLEK1. Send it to 44321.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I've been your host for today, Quabila Jones, and my special guest is Captain Kevin Kaczmarek from Arkansas State University. He's an assistant professor of military sciences. So I hope that you all have been enjoying this conversation. I know I've asked a gazillion questions, but hopefully by my questions, other people are more informed as now. And maybe they're students or someone else listening, parents who are listening, that can nudge their children into this program. And I did ask this before, the age bracket, and then we have another thing to discuss, but the age of requirements.
So the majority of our students are gonna come as just regular university students, 18 or 19 years old as freshmen.
Okay.
That's the majority. That being said, we do have late entry. We have young men and women that come in. Maybe they've worked jobs and they decide they want to go to school.
Okay.
Maybe they're in their early 20s. Okay. Right now, I believe the oldest you can be, and don't quote me too much on this, is about 32 to 34 years old at the date of commissioning. Okay. So when you graduate, that number fluctuates depending on needs of the military, but it's usually in your early 30s is the oldest you can be to commission.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to transition to something, well, I say fun and exciting, but other people may not, but you have a blood drive coming up.
I do. I do.
Give us all the details.
So next Wednesday at our headquarters, which is affectionately called the Old Armory at 1921 Aggie Road. That's basically right in front of the Student Union. You follow it out, you'll hit our building. We have a blood drive with the American Red Cross, and it is from noon till 6 p.m. If you go to A State ROTC on Facebook, the poster's there with the sign-up information. You can actually do an appointment right now just using the app on your phone. Our goal is to be the biggest blood drive university in the southern region. So please help us out. Obviously, it goes to a great cause. There's always a blood shortage in the winter, and we have the unique opportunity, being in the Delta here, that we always represent everything we do with blood drives for St. Jude's Children's Hospital and all the great things that they do, obviously for the community and the world with children's cancer research. So please, if you can, come and donate. If you can't, come and thank somebody for donating. That's next week, Wednesday, the 23rd, from noon to 6 p.m.
Do you need additional volunteers? So for those who may be a little squeamish and don't want to give or just afraid, do you need other volunteers maybe to help with forms or snacks or anything?
Sure. Any and all volunteers are welcome, and also we will be there too if you want to talk about ROTC, because that's in the building.
So win-win. So go out and see Captain Kevin and the other professors with the military science program, and then give blood or not and talk about the program. So that's awesome. All right, so I would love to hear some more stories of students. What are some funny things they've done? Things that, I don't know, just make you kind of sit back and chuckle like these students.
So it's funny. when we do the introduction for physical fitness, the first time we do what we call hard physical fitness, which is maybe a long distance run or a workout that you necessarily don't see in most workout regimes. Maybe it's an interval workout that's an hour long, and it's very difficult. Obviously, the first time it gets easier with time. But I always laugh because we kind of pride ourselves as professors of being in good shape still at our age. So walking around and seeing a young man or woman that maybe a little sore the next day, walking around, and that's when I get to feel tough and say, hey, I'm in my 30s and I'm feeling okay. And then I shut my office door and cry a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but then I get prideful because hey, they didn't quit and they did it the whole time, and then you get to see them get stronger and faster, and it's really cool.
So do they have to work out every day?
No. So
okay.
When you become contracted, the minimum workout is 3 times a day. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it is from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., which is usually we get college young men and women say, man, it's pretty early, but it is a proven fact. Successful individuals get up early. Name a Fortune 500 CEO, they probably get up before 6 a.m. And it is proven to help with your grades too, because your brain is sharp. You've eaten your breakfast by 7 a.m.
Okay.
You're ready to tackle the day.
So, I've had talks with some of the football players, and they have a structured schedule. They have to do their group breakfast or whatever at a certain time. They work out, and they have a schedule. So, with the military science program, do they work out together, eat together, do certain things together?
So it's one of my favorite things again. No, it's not structured, but what's really cool is it becomes informally structured.
Okay.
So we tell them when they have to do physical training. I eat breakfast right after there, and I go to the cafeteria, and almost every time, at least 80% of them are eating breakfast together every time I walk in there, and they're talking, and they're kind of building that team cohesiveness, which is awesome to watch.
Awesome. Now, do you have them on diet restrictions, or do they just know, okay, I'm going to be training, so I might not want to eat this pizza today. I might want to...
We actually have an awesome partnership with our dietetics program at A-State. So if we know someone that's struggling, whether they're not getting enough out of their diet, or maybe they need to lose some weight, or some just body fat composition, they want to bring it down, we can pair them up with the dietitians at A-State, and they do it as part of their program too. So it's that kind of interdependability we have on campus to kind of help each other out. And then at the end of the day, I'll walk through too and just kind of double check and make sure they're making the right choices. But they're usually pretty good with it.
Okay. And then one last question. With that nutrition aspect, do you try to also reassure them you're not trying to control their body image per se, but the purpose of why they need to maintain a certain body weight?
Right, yeah, we talked about it's performance based. Everything you do in the military is performance based. So when you're fueling that machine, which is your body, you want to do it the right way. There is a certain look to being a soldier, and that's hard for some people to understand. And it's to be physically fit. There's something to be said about being intimidating looking. Sometimes fights in war don't even have to start if you just look like the right army that you don't want to mess with.
Okay, look, I know, thank you. Okay. So, again, we just want to remind everyone about the Homecoming Blood Drive next Wednesday, October 23rd, starting at 12 noon at the Military Science Building, which is on Aggie Road. I keep saying, what is the Armory? Yeah. I went to school in the 90s, so we just call it the Armory. So, the Armory. Please go out and support this event and go talk to the personnel if you're interested in joining the ROTC, National Guard, and or being full-time enlisted in the Army. They can give you all that information. So, in our last minute, would you like to give any shout-outs or anything?
I would. I'd just like to shout out the cadets that are in the program. Thanks for everything you do. Thanks for making it a joy to come to work every day. And thanks for making your country, your community, and each other better.
That's awesome. And your family, are they listening?
I don't know if they are. Brianna, I love you. Kids are in school. Listen to your teachers. And I'll see you when I get home tonight.
All right. And any advice to anyone that's new in the program, considering signing up? Any advice?
Yeah, just come and talk to us. And remember, your first 2 years, it's just a class.
Okay.
You're not signing a contract. And if you want to just come by and just shadow somebody before you even join the class, that's perfectly fine too. Just come and talk to us. I'm telling you, we're very low threat. We'd love to talk to the young men and women of our community and just see what their plans are.
All right, well, thank you so very much for that. And don't forget to check out KLEK volunteers on the campus of Arkansas State University in the newly designed cafeteria, the student union, today for the volunteer fair. Go check out the station manager and those volunteers and get some information and join our team as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a great and blessed day. Join us at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK